Hey everybody, it's the Red Zone. It's Thursday night, and you know what it's all about? Growing closer together. Josh Tobar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy, here with an awesome group of educators getting ready to bring all our tools to the table, making sure we learn from each other. So please make sure that you join us, like it and share. If you see it on the replay, also like it and share, because you know what? That is the only way we're going to grow for 22, 23. We need to make sure that we get all of these tools, all these suggestions, all these ideas, and put it into our tool chest, because you know what? We've all learned from the last 2 years how to survive. And you know what? We're flying that airplane and we're building it at the same time. It doesn't matter, because educators, we survived and we keep on conquering. And so it doesn't matter where you're coming from, whether you're coming from Alaska or Hawaii, Maine or Florida, or anywhere in the middle of 48, we're together. You know why? Because we're doing our best to make sure that our kids, the future of the United States, are prepared for 22, 23. What do you think about that, Chris?
I love it, Josh. This is exactly why we founded Unlock the Middle, to make connections and build connectivity so we can be better and help others be better as well. Sometimes we share crazy ideas, sometimes we share stories, sometimes we cry together, sometimes we laugh together, but it's all about continuously getting better. And Josh, being down in Texas, I'm up here in Massachusetts. We've got some other guests with us tonight. Dr. Anthony Turcala, how are you tonight? Who are you and where are you from? A little bit about your background.
Oh man, I'm doing great. Just a privilege to be here with you guys to have this conversation, continue growing together, just like you guys said. Anthony Turcala here in South Florida, Aventura City of Excellence School. Very proud to be entering my 4th year as principal, my 11th year at the school where I started as a 7th grade civics teacher. We focus on community there because we know relationships is what it's all about. We're a K through 8 school, 1,032 students. And it's just a privilege to have this role. You guys know leading in education is just a privilege because we work with the best people, educators, people who give their life to provide for the future. Like you said, Josh, those kids who are going to grow up, the citizens who are going to lead our country moving forward. Glad to be here with you guys.
100%, man. Thank you for joining us. Michael, how are you doing this evening? Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, doing good, brother. Good to be here. It's an honor and a privilege. My name is Michael Bland, y'all. I'm the proud Executive Director of Innovation for Garland ISD, moving into my 2nd year in that role. This is my 16th year in education, and I've served as a principal at 3 different campuses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Prior to education, I was in law enforcement, so I have a different perspective in terms of education, but the underbelly of education is the criminal justice system. One of the things that I pride myself on as an educator, y'all, is making deals with the community, especially with our stakeholders, but more importantly, our students. And when I say make deals, that means providing them with discipline, education, affirmation, leadership, and support.
Michael, I love that. I've got a background with at-risk youth. I've had some work in corrections prior to entering into education. And I got to say, the work that we do as middle-level educators, high school educators, really building bridges with kids, families, communities, all caregivers, is essential to really kind of fracturing that pipeline, right? Thanks for all the work that you did prior to and what you're doing now, man. Director of Innovation sounds amazing. Robert Padilla, how are you tonight, our friend?
I'm doing well, Chris. Thank you for having me on. Thank you, Josh. And I'm actually starting my 4th year as administrator, assistant principal at Jefferson Silva High School here in El Paso, Texas. Before that, though, I've been in various roles on a campus all the way back to my teaching days. Started back in '98, so I'm going into my 24th year now in education. I spent 13 years at my alma mater previously before coming to Jefferson Silva. I was Bowie Bear and now I'm with Jefferson Fox, which meant I moved down the road about a mile. We're actually only separated by a mile and change on the same street, actually, almost. So it's definitely still in the neighborhood, but I'm enjoying the time that I'm here because I'm getting to work with a different group of people and a different group of kids. Like I said, it's only a mile down the road, but it's a world of difference.
That's amazing. Being able to have that hometown connection is really key. I'm actually a middle school principal in the hometown I grew up in, that I'm currently raising my family in, and it's a blessing and it's not a curse yet, but it's been a great ride. Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to kick around a few topics, but number one is last year, we read throughout all the news a summer ago that the coming school year was going to be normal. We were going to enter into 21-22 and it was going to be a piece of cake, because what could have been worse than 20 to 21, right? What are some of the thoughts and the reflections on 21-22? What were lessons learned for you, and lessons that we're thinking about taking, forward? Why don't we kick it off to Anthony up there? What'd you learn last year?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone, I spent a good amount of the year just trying to figure out what was going on, right? Especially, I think every leader was just wondering, what is it? What is it that's making everyone stressed? What is it that's making everyone overwhelmed? I kind of came to the conclusion, I just felt like it was the unknown, right? We had no consistency. There was no normalcy, whether it was students or staff in our personal life and our professional life. We didn't know if prices were going up. We didn't know if we were going to have to quarantine or if daycares were going to close or what was going to happen. And it was just catching up to us, just so much of having to be on alert. So when we finally realized, okay, this isn't a normal year, we just buckled down and just thought, what can we do to get down to the basics? And we really focused on whether it was discipline, like Michael mentioned, because we all experienced a lot of behavior concerns last year, or whether it was expectations for the staff. We just tried to get down to the basics, clearly communicate. And what I really learned was that has to be the foundation. What are the basic expectations we have? Have we communicated them clearly? How are we going to adjust when needed? And we're taking that forward into this year. And so in terms of lessons learned, I was fortunate to spend a week at the end of last year after students left with our leadership team, and then just finished up today another week with our leadership team before our staff are coming next week to getting ready for this year, with a lot of planning, strategic planning and communication about collectively, what are we all doing, all 9 grades in this K-8 to meet the needs of the students. And so that was the lesson learned. Let's get down to the basics, communicate clearly, and make sure we know what we're trying to do moving forward. Can't hear you, Chris.
Whoops! It's like it's my first time on a streaming system. Sorry, guys. Robert, what do you think after that eloquent presentation?
Well, actually, that probably would have been one of the things I mentioned, is getting back out of that habit of muting yourself and probably putting something up here on the screen so you could grab a cup of coffee or something. And I know a lot of kids got in that mode, and to be honest, a lot of adults. And I think that's one of the things that when we came back, it wasn't necessarily just how are we going to get the kids rolling again, and how are we going to get their head back into being in the classroom, being in the space where other people around. But the adults had to go through that same process. And I think one of the things that we found out, and again, like I mentioned, I spent exactly 1 semester at one school and another semester at a different school last year. So I got that kind of the ability and the insight to be able to compare places, and it wasn't much different. I think most adults felt like they were coming back too soon, and I kind of understood that feeling. But I don't think it was ever going to be a time where everyone would feel like it was okay to come back. I don't think we were ever going to get to that point where we fully understood and wanted to be back 100%. So it was very much a learning process there. And it was at both campuses. Both campuses, we had the same situation with the kids, very hesitant, sometimes very unwilling to do some of the basic things that they've been doing for 9 years before they got to high school. But the same thing with the adults. We had to get them to the point where they felt comfortable enough to be dealing with the kids, be dealing with the on and off again, in and out of daily life at a campus.
That was a true challenge for educational leaders around the country. Paying attention to the needs of not only the students and the caregivers as we're entering, but all the educators in our care and charge. There were a lot of question marks about their safety, their ability to do the job. What were the learning gaps going to look like? What do we have to focus on? What was most important? Josh, thoughts related to 21-22?
I just think that it proved the beauty of our profession. All these businesses needed a federal bailout. All these places required assistance from everywhere else. We had to learn, and our team members had to learn how to restructure their whole professional life to create pedagogy for 2 platforms. Then maybe one platform, maybe the other platform, maybe the technology work didn't do. And you know what? They kept pushing ahead. They kept shifting into higher gear. And you know what? That's the beautiful part and resilience of our profession. Because you know what? We understood that we're taking care of someone else's child, and most importantly, of someone else's future. And while those parents were probably 2 jobs or getting let go from their job or whatever it was, and they didn't know how to help them at home, we had to go above and beyond. Our team members in the classroom had to do everything within their power. And some of them, we all know, we're not good at technology. And you know what? They said, it's my, I'm going to score that touchdown. I'm going to go down the A gap and I'm going to punch it in. Hey, coach, I'm going to go in right through that. And that's what they did. Across the United States, we allowed ourselves to create new possibilities, new paradigms, and we did it all for one thing, for our kids. So all these millions of dollars that went to business worlds and to this and to that, we didn't get none of that, hardly. And you know what? That's okay, because we're not in it for the money. We know we're not in it for the money. We're in it for what? The future of the United States, our kids.
100%. Michael, I'm sorry you got to follow that, man, but what are your thoughts on last year, man?
No, I mean, I agree with Josh and all the rest of the speakers 100%. You know, that what I learned the most about myself last year was my ability to pivot. I'm a flexible person. I'm able to go in and see the glass half full, so to speak. And coming from the principal role and then morphing into a central office administrator, that's a challenge within itself. But especially in a year where we saw budget constraints, we saw a rise in COVID, we saw the community at large who questioned the profession and our credibility as educators. But at the same time, we were able to show our worth as educators, because it's not about just the pedagogy or the state assessments and the accountability systems. It's really about taking care of people. And so self-care took on a new role in my life, where I saw myself as the person that had it all together. I don't have to worry about self-care. I'm well adjusted. And then all of a sudden I get slapped in the face with reality that, hey, taking care of people is not for the faint of heart, if that makes sense. And so as educators, we've learned to be more resilient. We've learned to cherish, the knowledge and the skills that we have, and really look at ourselves as change agents, as opposed to people that can't do, they teach, if that makes sense. That old notion of, if you can't do, you go in the classroom and you teach. But now, with an emerging teacher crisis and some of the other negative things that are out there, we're able to offset that with our unity and our togetherness. And that's the biggest thing that I gained from last year is we can't do it alone. We have to do it together. One team, one goal.
Yeah, gentlemen, the only thing I can possibly add is I learned to tune out the noise. Michael, you just referenced the questioning of educators and what our mission was. Hey, people can have opinions. We can talk critical race theory. We can talk, democratic ideals. We can whatever we want to do. But at the bottom line, at the end of the day, we're educating kids in reading, writing, arithmetic. We're taking care of the social emotional needs. We're addressing their adolescent development, especially at the middle level, teaching them how to have peer interactions, teaching them how to use social media responsibly and smartly. And adult perspectives being what they are, you got to honor them. You got to respect where they're coming from, but you can't allow it to distract us from the mission. And that's really what I realized this year, was the ability to tune out the noise. June approached, May approached for some of us when school ended. We ended up in the summer session. Let's talk about personal rejuvenation. How are you taking care of yourself this summer? How are educators in your charge taking care of themselves to come back primed and ready for the school year? I mean, some of you are already back with faculty and staff right now. We have a couple of weeks remaining here up in Massachusetts. But let's kick it to Josh. What are you doing to take care of yourself, rejuvenating yourself over this summer?
The beauty about being an administrator in Texas is that we have this huge vacation time with a 226 contract. And my whole 5 days of vacation were spending my money in Florida. I was just dropping all over the Sunshine State over there. And they were so kind, they provided me with a going away gift. So I really enjoyed my 5 days in Florida. But you know what? Other than that, for me, since I'm always on social media and I like to promote the things that are going on there, because remember, if you're not on social media, you still rent your movies at Blockbuster and you still buy your pants at Montgomery Ward. And so put down your VHS tape and get on social media, because that's where all of educators are. And I enjoyed seeing everybody really taking time for self. It doesn't matter where you would see educators. The New England region, California, the Midwest, everybody was out there enjoying their loved ones. And that's what it's all about. Family first and self-care first. It's a tie thing. They go hand in
Mhm.
hand. And so it was a joy for me to see it because you know what? I took advantage of that. And if you've never known, and I got to give the shameless plug, the best beach I've ever seen in the United States, Clearwater, Florida. I got to give him that one on that. So we enjoyed our family vacation at the beach. And most importantly, it was my joy to see, and also my team members at MPA. They were all enjoying their time off with their family, resting in whatever part of the United States.
That's awesome, Josh. Thanks for sharing. Michael, how about yourself, man?
Just to ride that same train, the faith, family, and career for me. I learned how to prioritize the things that I preached to my teachers at the time when I was a principal. I'd always tell them it's faith, family, then career. But I found myself doing it in the reverse. And I had to take the week that Josh referenced to really just center myself, get back to the essence of who I am as a person and the role that I play in my own home, in the obligations that I have here, but also the obligations that I have in the community and the things that I do for community outreach. Those things were all top of the food chain for me. But really, I had to ground myself in my own personal faith and finding something greater than myself to pull from when times get rough. And that's one thing that I did to sharpen my saw over that 1 week period, but also just throughout my daily walk. This is a job that we have to do with it's a higher calling, and we have to do it with a sense of pride and dignity, but also a sense of spirituality, and know from whom we came. And so that's been my mantra here for the school year moving forward, finding myself in a positive light with my maker. And that's going to be my saving grace and my motivation moving forward.
That is right on point. Your reference to Stephen Covey, he never gets old, man. Keep the char sop so that we can cut the wood, right? And if
Right.
we're cutting that wood, we're making progress with our goals, with our careers, and with our families. It's fantastic. Anthony.
Oh man, so yeah, I just sticking with that theme of family. I enjoyed being able to drop my daughter off at daycare. I have a 3-year-old, and so she's been going through this principalship with me and COVID and all that. So having that chance to drop her off and pick her up sometimes and take her to dance and different things, that was wonderful. Being able to spend time with my leadership team and just really going to lunches. We went to 2 different conferences. Our school community is reading the energy bus in preparation for this school year. And, just doing things because I want to do them, whatever it is, right? And whether it's strategic planning or reading a personal novel or taking my daughter to the park, whatever it was because I felt like doing it, which, as we all know, it had been quite a while since that occurred, because even those summers, after COVID hit, they were not relaxing in any way. We weren't doing what we wanted. We were preparing for the unknown. This summer, I was preparing for next year in the way I wanted to. And a lot of that included, again, spending time with my daughter and making time for my family. So that was wonderful to do. It's been a while.
That's awesome, man. And so I was touched by the dropping the daughter off at daycare, man. It's simple, but it's powerful, man.
We never
It
get to
feeds
do
our
it.
souls,
Yeah.
Robert, how are you taking care of yourself this summer, man?
You know what? This was a very unique summer for me, I think, in my family. I learned a lesson early on in my career. I thought I was ready to become a head coach a little bit too soon, and I applied for a position I didn't get. And the lesson I learned then is sometimes the best jobs and the best things that happen to you are the things that don't happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this summer, one of the things that I learned very much, and it brought me back to that moment, I was applying for a principal job, to be honest, at the previous school I was at. I thought I was a perfect fit. I'd been there for over a decade. I kind of worked my way through there from the head football coach to administration, and I got to know everybody there. And some little fluke where I left a date off of an application kind of took me off the application list. And the reason I bring it up is because it was the interviews happened to be slated the very same week where we were planning to go to Mexico with the family. We had this all laid out with the family, with my brother-in-law, his family. We were taking a 10-day trip out to Yucatan, Mexico. And we'd been planning that for years, since before pandemic. And so I had already kind of made up my mind. I bought an extra ticket. I was going to catch up with them halfway through the trip after the interview, obviously. And because I didn't get it, I was actually able to ride down with them, fly down, experience from the first day to the last day, and came back completely drained, drenched, and sunburned. And I'll tell you what, that was the best 10 days of my life. So very much the lesson that I learned early on about maybe not being the right time, and just not getting something that I thought I was ready for, turned out to be the best thing for me and my kids. I mean, I've got a 17, 14, and 12-year-old now, and my wife and I were celebrating our 20-year anniversary, and we actually got to visit where we went to on a honeymoon. So it all kind of played out beautifully because of something that didn't happen for me. And sometimes I think in this profession, we're always looking to strive. We're always looking ahead, looking to achieve and hopefully improve the places that we're at. And sometimes we tend to get away from the fact that we also have to improve where we live, and that home has to be taken care of. So that definitely this summer was very much a great experience for me. I think it was the best thing that could have happened. Those 10 days I'll treasure forever.
That's what this is all about finding yourself, finding your true path, and identifying those opportunities that are really deep and meaningful to your heart and your soul. You had a transformational experience this summer, and you were able to tune out the noise that's out there. Up here in Dudley, Massachusetts, the Team Star Clubhouse, that's what we call our home, has been lively, hanging at the pool, out on the trampoline, and we went on a Disney cruise a couple weeks ago. I've had the good fortune to just be around people I want to be around, my family, my good friends, do the things I really want to do. And I've been having great success with taking this thing and not paying attention to emails during off hours, not paying attention to emails or voicemails or text messages on the weekends. I've been trying to really feed my own personal soul by tuning out the professional soul, while still keeping sharp with the saw and doing some reading and the like, but things that I want to do, things that I want to read, things that I want to engage in to get professionally better. I don't want to be forced into it this summer. It's been too much the past couple of years. And that's all I got on that topic.
So, as we transition right now into 22-23, and before I get into that, because you know what? I'm starting year 31. I'm not as old as Martin Silverman. He always calls us the babies. But one thing I'll let you know what, Coach, I'll tell you this much. After 31 years in this business, I'll let you know one thing. That's a 3-year-old right there. And Mom is not keeping away the 3-year-old. Mom is here.
Pizza House. Pizza House.
Okay, can you please go over there? Thank you. The Pizza House right there. Welcome to a live podcast. Here we go. And so one thing is that if you're an assistant coach, if you're an assistant principal, or you're that teacher looking to be an assistant principal, I can guarantee you one thing. God will put you where you're supposed to be. He will always put you where you're supposed to be. That's a guarantee. Take that after 31 years, being like at 14 schools and 3 districts in 2 different cities. I can only tell you that one thing is that if you're meant to be there, he will place you there. But as we start going into 22-23, it's crucial that we understand one thing. How are we preparing for this year with the knowledge that we spoke about in the past? When we closed down, when we were at home, when we were doing that hybrid, not hybrid, whatever it was, how are we preparing for 22-23? What are we doing? Mike, you have a different point of view from the central office scope. So how are you preparing for 22-23?
Yeah, so, starting off this year, with the looming, the peak elephant in the room is the budget, right? And we have a budget deficit. And that's something that really has an impact on how we service our students. And so trying to find ways to be very creative and resourceful to make sure that our students get what they deserve. Doing a budget analysis in my own departments, the 4 that I supervise, making sure that efficiency and the output is where I need it to be. I'm starting there. Looking at the individual campuses that I supervise and that I'm over in terms of programming, trying to see if we're getting more bang for our buck in terms of some of the software that we use, for example, or some of the positions that we have that may not be funded in the next 3 years. What our sustainability plan is to maintain the momentum that we are gaining now in the positive that's going to affect students. Doing a SWOT analysis of the overall departments that that I supervise as well. That gives me a fresh perspective on how to better serve the principals that run those campuses and how to support those principals. Fostering community partnerships, and making sure that we have these outside resources that we can bring in some cases free of charge, to really provide a service for our community. So those are just some of the things that I'm doing currently, which is similar to what I did in the role of principal and even as a teacher, except I'm now serving 50,000+ students in 72 campuses that are all affected by the choices that I make within my department. So that's that's my goal for this year, is to really put things in perspective and be intentional about everything that I do and not leave no stone unturned.
Awesome, Mike. Great. That's awesome. Doc, talk to us, Doc, over there in Florida.
Yeah, so no, I love that planning aspect you have going on, Michael, and really what we've been trying to do is get our team on the same page. Like I said, before school or after school ended and before school starts, we really invested in our academic and operational leadership team for all K-8 to come together. I asked everybody, what's your mission and vision for your role? Share that with everybody. Everyone presented on their department and how they serve, who they serve, and what their whole operations look like. And what that's created is relationships, obviously, right? We had to come back together in a way that was different. But more importantly is everyone is now understanding where their parts may have been similar or different. And that's what we're always trying to do. Like Michael said, is when you're trying to balance all of these different competing elements, how do we keep it together once everything starts rolling, right? It's easy in the summer to say what we're going to do, but when you have those lunchroom discipline problems and the student absenteeism and the tardies and the behaviors, at that point, are we able to keep it together? And I'm very hopeful that these weeks we spent together aligning our visions and missions is going to pay off in terms of the ability to collaborate with each other and move forward in a common goal. And like I said, reading the energy bus, we don't have time for energy vampires at ACEs at my school. Our job is too hard to be sitting next to someone who's going to be negative and criticizing and complaining. And so we're making it very clear, culture-wise, we're moving forward. If not, you have to get off the bus and we'll find somebody else who's ready to do the work. Because again, it's just too hard to be sitting next to people who are going to be doing those types of things. And so that culture, vision, mission, alignment is the stuff we really invested in. And I hope, I know it's going to pay off as we move forward in 22-23.
So true, Doc. I love that. And shameless plug, this last Tuesday during our office hours, what do we discuss? The lunchroom. So if you're bored and you got 20 minutes, check out our Tuesday podcast called Office Hours. Coach, talk to us.
Well, I think, Josh, we're already knee deep in it. We're looking at week one already. We're finishing up tomorrow, week one of the school year. So the planning, the things that we were focusing on coming in, the principal was very clear. We got to shore up our attendance. We got to do something different to make sure that they show up and stay here. We were in a very unique position. Again, I'm talking about my current campus. I came in over in January. We had a lot of construction and still do. We actually were the beneficiaries of a bond that built a new school for us. So as I was coming in January, we were still in the process of building and demoing at the same time. So it kind of fell on us to also, as we're planning for the school year, make the move over into the new building. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it's a whale of a job. A lot of logistical things that have to go into, moving one classroom into this space, and what are you taking, what are you not taking, the restrictions that come with, it's a new building, so don't bring that old bookshelf kind of thing. And okay, so now what do I do with my books? So a lot of that was kind of at the forefront of what we were trying to do. And unfortunately, because of the construction, there were a lot of places to hide on our campus. We work at a challenging campus with a lot of different issues, on top of the fact that we house within the campus grounds a magnet academy, health magnet. So we've got kind of, I don't want to say extremes, but definitely we run the gamut from a challenging campus to an overachieving campus where the kids are applying and not everybody gets in. It's a unique combination. So the planning that goes into housing these two different, very unique campuses, schools within one campus, The planning goes into how are we going to effectively keep kids here, make them come, stay here, achieve, challenge those kids that are all, gearing up for those medical fields and things like that, but also still support our kids that are at a different level and trying sometimes to survive. And on top of that, we have a lot of kids that deal with language deficiencies. So that plays a big part in our planning. We definitely have to get our LPACs in order and offer the things that we need to offer for the kids that need the language support. So definitely attendance was one of them. Maintaining the progress in terms of the move and the build and the demolition and keeping everybody safe was at the forefront. And of course, you can't talk safety right now without being able to, the elephant in the room. And how do we keep people from accessing our campus as wide open as it is right now because of construction and demolition, and still feel like we're keeping our kids safe and our adults safe. So it was very much a big endeavor, but attendance was definitely at the forefront, keeping people safe, not only because of the construction, but also because of the access points that are open naturally because of it. And then just maintaining the challenging environment for that group of students on one end, plus still supporting the academic needs and the language supports that we need for the other group.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you for sharing those thoughts, especially in the area that you're at. And just so that people in the United States know, he's in a border area where he has a high population of students coming from another country, literally, to attend that high school. And then they go back to the other country at night. So there's a lot of language barriers and other situations, and it's extremely lower socioeconomic. So what they do there is totally the Lord's work right there, because they have to put a lot of moving pieces into place for student success. And what about the Titans? Talk to me about the Titans. How are the Titans getting ready?
The TMS Titans are getting ready to just rule the world, man. We are getting fired up and primed, ready to enter into this coming school year in a variety of ways. But a lot of the work that's really been done this summer has been focused on the idea of back in the day, there was a book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. It was, and the thought was, first who, then what? You get the people on the bus, but they got to be the right people and they got to be in the right seats. Identifying the right roles, the right responsibilities, the right experiences to help them be at the top of their game. So really taking a look at our staffing, making sure we get the right people in the right place to interact with the kids in the best way possible, interact with their colleagues in the best way possible to really get that flywheel turning, right? And get that motivational effect in play. So my assistant principal, other members of the leadership team, we've been talking all summer about that. We had a great experience at the MSAA conference, the Massachusetts Secondary Administrator Association conference last week. Mr. Tucker and I, who just joined Twitter, by the way, follow Mr. Tucker at AP_Tuck. He finally joined Twitter. It's been like pulling teeth. 5 years, but I finally got him to do it. We've been talking about lessons learned from last year. We were looking at dilemmas that we faced. We were looking at situations that teachers brought to us when they were at their breaking points. And we had to, in the then, immediately resolve and get some resolution. But over the summer, we talked about identifying and using some metrics to calibrate ourselves as leaders to identify when our teachers were going to be getting towards their breaking points. And for us, that was a great conversation because as we looked at things in retrospect, we identified opportunities that we missed. We were immersed in the downfall of complaints. I said earlier, tuning out the noise, but we missed a lot of signals and we didn't lose sight of what was most important, but we got a little distracted along the way. And that had an impact on some of our faculty and staff. So we've been really working on identifying what we can do to be better with that, how we can create systems for stronger communication when there are things like schedule changes or service delivery adjustments when the IEP has been adjusted so that all stakeholders are made aware immediately and it's not through the grapevine that they hear. Those little tweaks. Physical safety in our district has been a big focus. Robert, you spoke of that. Myself, Dean Packard, another principal in district, Peter Olson, and our school resource officer here in Dudley. We went to become certified as ALIS trainers. So we're going to be leading training for our entire district on ALIS protocols as we enter into this coming school year to really solidify our processes around safety and response. Looking into ways to increase accountability without assumptions. We are not looking to assume that everybody is doing what they need to do. We're going to go ahead and make sure we understand and question, make sure that everybody's held to an accountability standard, not micromanaging, but ensuring that the kids get what they need, the staff get what they need, and everybody follows through on what they need to do. Because last year was a year of, let's enter into evaluation. Let's not go ahead and be really ultra prescriptive with our recommendations. Let's not be overwhelming in terms of the expectation on the teacher for improvement. This year, we're going to be entering with a stronger lens on individual improvement, individual betterment, and individual accountability.
Well, let me tell you, at Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA, what we did all summer long was making sure, number one, we reached out to our students. Thanks to the awesome assistant principal that works side by side with me, one of the best that I've ever worked with. We sent out letters to those students at our different programs, let them know the expectations, new protocols because of what happened in Uvalde, different situations like that, letting them know, but most importantly, that we missed them and we loved them. But the other part was making sure professional development. If you want to have a great year, your first week of PD is crucial, and how you plan that out. Every coach will tell you that, right, coach? The way that you do your practice is the way you're going to play the game. Every coach will tell you that. Yes or no, gentlemen? The way you do your practice is the way you're going to, and that's the way you always got to go. So I'll let you know one thing. RPD, the last 4 days, up there. We called it up there. Woo! Home run. It was day after day of fluency. No one was bored. No one fell asleep. No one was on their phone because it took time to plan those things. Thanks to that awesome assistant principal that we have, but most importantly, the climate and culture that has been developed at Memorial Pathway Academy. So it's great things that are going on, and it takes time. And if you don't put the time, attention to detail, then you know what? People will fall apart. Then the climate starts going negative, and how you set the tone the first week is how you will go for all of 22-23. But that's not all. That's not all we're going to talk about. In closing, the whole purpose that we're here today is to make sure that we discuss social media. This is a venue too where we have podcasts, whether you hear it on Spotify on that fruit one, or hear live on YouTube. We have different formats that are truly free. I always say this, it's free PD at your fingertips. But you know what? We have a lot of hesitation across the United States. For whatever reason, there's hesitation. So I throw this out there. How can we use podcasts such as this that's free? You don't have to use your Title I money. You don't have to use 199 money. You don't have to use none of that. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to send 4 people to a small training for 2 days. How can we use this venue to ensure that our team members become a better version of themselves? What do you think about that, Doc?
And it starts with just communicating, right? It all centers around communication. So, when you listen to a podcast or you see a clip that's going to be beneficial to a specific staff member, a specific team, share it with them, send it directly to them, especially from a leadership role. And just continuing to spread the word, and everybody deals in specifics. You can't just say, in general, this podcast is good. No, which episode? What was it about it? What am I going to take away? And so in context, when you see that opportunity for growth and development, share it with the people who will benefit from it. And most importantly, keep consuming it ourselves, right? All of us continue developing it ourselves so that we're able to hear and then share those things with everybody. But it all comes back to communication. You have to share what you hear.
Nice job. Thanks, Doc. Michael.
I think we have to be intentional about, our social media use. And for me as a principal, that was one of my weaknesses. And it's because I'm not a digital native, if that makes sense. And as a digital immigrant, I'm a Facebook guy, but that's about the extent of it. But I'll tell you, it's about word of mouth and really working with others and immersing yourself, in a world that may be uncomfortable for me, at least. There are other educators like Robert Jackson, Principal Kafele, Principal Ahmed Rod, my hometown in Compton, Paul Miller out in Green Tech High School in Albany, New York. These are people that I know, or that I know of in some cases, but I know some of these guys personally, and they inspire me as an educator to say, hey, if they're using this platform, to spread the good news, then let me jump on board and just be a passenger until I can drive myself, so to speak. And Josh, he and I tried to get to this whole thing going for a while now, and there's always some competing priority. But now that I'm here, Josh, again, thank you for having me come out tonight, because this is awesome. And these are the type of things that's going to really push the envelope for me and others like me who are reluctant to necessarily use a platform like this to show our worth in the education field and to share our craft. So thanks again. But that's my contribution on that end.
Woo, and you mentioned the man. We're part of the Fantastic Four, Michael. We work together with Jefe Principal Cafele. If any of you are bored, episode 70, he has a guy that I know. So check him out on episode 70 of the Assistant Principals Academy. Robert, talk to us.
Got it now. All right. So I think one of the things that always comes to mind when you think of podcasts and education, you automatically think of how I can reach out and maybe find like-minded individuals that will share some ideas that I can adapt. We actually, on a side note, though, I think there's different possibilities for podcasts and other situations for our students and our teachers. One particular teacher that stands out for me is Eddie Acosta here at Jefferson High School. He's a former coach, also actually still coaches some on the side, basketball coach, and he started a podcast with his students as a way for them to start, again, supporting that language development. But I'll tell you, the biggest, I think, deterrent to that even being possible was the teacher. He was not fully immersed in the environment. He wasn't really aware of how to set it up, where to go, where to get started. But little by little, the students became kind of the teachers, and that dynamic was a beautiful thing to see. He himself began learning and utilizing more of this media, and the kids loved it. I mean, they're sharing their podcasts all over. We've tried to share as much as possible as educators here on the campus. So I think it works twofold. I think we can always look for ideas from other individuals across the country now, across the world, really, if you look hard enough. But there's also that kind of teachable moment that can only happen when something like this becomes the thing that binds both teacher and student, where they're both immersed in that learning and they're both enjoying the process, and it becomes such a natural thing. So now we're all looking forward to this year and when it's going to kick off again, and some of the things that they're going to share. And initially it was very, very surface, but I think the more and more the kids got used to being in front of the computer and speaking, the more they were able to share some very deep thoughts about how they were feeling. And I think it goes back to some of the things we mentioned, where the hesitancy to come back and how to come back and how it's going to feel and look and sound. They were able to express some of those things. So the SEL component definitely worked its way into that. And us as individuals, as adults, we can always look for that support. I think that I very much enjoyed being part of this process, is being able to share some of the things that I've experienced with what amounted to total strangers when we started, but finding that sense of a community and understanding through this very interactive medium.
Awesome, Coach. And what about up there? Man, you presented at conferences, my man. You're the man, Chris. How can we better enhance this venue that we have?
I think you've got to sit down, and we really just have to look at what our purpose here is on this screen tonight. We're having a dialogue about our day-to-day practices, right? We're not talking about anything revolutionary. We're not talking about anything that's transformative, on paper. But when we sit down and we take Michael's ideas and Anthony's ideas and Robert's ideas and Josh's ideas and we put them together, guess what happens up here? We identify opportunities that we might not otherwise see. We see connections on the screen. Michael, I'm fired up about the whole, director of innovation, man. I'm a big Disney guy, right? I love the theory of reimagining and thinking about what education could be. I want to have episodes on this show about, the 4-day school week, the year-long school year that some of you experience with 2-week breaks here, a 3-week break there, a 4-week break here, as opposed to traditional summer vacations, 180 days crammed into 8 months, right? I want to think about opportunities for kids, ways that we can reimagine and utilize things like podcasts and video casts to get them to express their understanding as opposed to pencil and paper tests. I want to think about, eliminating the need for standardized tests in the way that they are, and how can we integrate performance tasks in. And guess what? I can't understand how to do all that on my own, despite my dreams. I've got to use platforms like this where I can engage with others, where I can bring their ideas into my world, help make their ideas my own ideas, and take action on them. And that's what the platform is. It's unlimited potential. So whether it's podcast, video cast, Twitter chats that you can engage in, Facebook groups related to an area of interest that you have. Just tonight, I created a new platform that we're streaming on, Unlock the Middle, on Twitch. I have no idea if there are going to be any viewers on Twitch, but you know what? This platform streams there. I just checked. We had at one point 12 viewers on Twitch. I thought it was just for people to watch Fortnite and Minecraft games. Nope, they're watching educational video casts. This is cool. But it's the idea of really engaging in a different way with colleagues from around the country, really around the world, because we're not limited geographically any longer. Utilizing technology to our max, whether you're picking up a book, whether you're reading a journal, or you're engaging in some type of social media platform, the potential is unlimited. And that's really why we founded Unlock the Middle, to create a library of on-demand PD that can really help make us better.
And the only thing I add to that is this. In education, there's nothing new. We beg, borrow, and steal. We make it our own. And when you follow someone from Iowa, we follow someone from Washington State, whatever it might be, we love the idea because maybe it's new to us. And then we move it around and we make it with the tool set that we have. So that's the whole purpose of social media, making sure that we learn from each other, because maybe we never attended that PD that taught us how to become a better version of ourselves. And you know what, Chris? It's hitting that time right now. Don't forget about our show this Sunday, 7 p.m. Be ready for the promo. But ultimately, I would like to take this time to thank Michael, Doc, Coach, up there in Massachusetts area, Mr. Chris, our host for the evening tonight. So please make sure that when you see this, like it and share it. And you know what? Let me tell you one thing. Today is the Red Zone. It's almost Friday Night Football. And I think we already scored the very first touchdown of the year. Touchdown on the Red Zone. Take it away, Chris.
All right, man. Michael, Anthony, Robert, Josh, of course. Thanks for being with us tonight. Everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land, we are here for you. Reach out to us anytime. Let us know any resources that you need. We'll try and find them for you. And if we can't find them for you, we'll find someone who can. Gentlemen, please stay on the screen after we end our stream. Let's say goodbye to our audience for tonight, and let's take it home. Have a great night, everybody.